So welcome to our first proper silver webinar. So I get to talk into cyberspace here and trust you're out there listening. It's a little bit of a strange experience that I haven't quite got used to yet, but I'm going to fire away here and hope this all works. So we've called this A is for alignment and decided to use the Essentials book as a framework for these early webinars. And I'm aware that amongst you folks listening, I've got everybody from some quite experienced coaches to some folks I don't know, and probably some folks who from your introductions in the lounge have struggled with your bodies over time. So I've got a very wide-ranging audience here, and I hope that I can do a good sweep of saying things that are basic enough for folks who are really coming across this for the first time and folks who are well versed in this. So A is for alignment, and my premise here is that we're looking for a shoulder, hip, heel vertical line in the rider. So within our established ways of talking about riding, we have the idea of a shoulder hip vertical line, and everybody's heard of that, but hardly anybody does it. Many people pay lip service to the idea, but hardly anybody does it. And I think there are two reasons for that. One is it's really not easy. And the other is that our basic tenets of riding also say lower leg on the girth. And if you go lower leg on the girth, you're likely to stick your foot forward to do it. And of course, the other thing everybody knows is heels down. And if you're determined to get your heels down at all costs, you are going to put your lower leg forward because that will make your heel point towards the horse's knee. And anybody can put their lower leg forward and get their heel to point to the horse's knee. But very few people could get their horses to aim towards their heels to aim towards the horse's hock. So on your screen, you should have one of the drawings from Essentials. This drawing was actually done from a photograph. The rider is called Ebba von Essen. She's a young Swedish rider, although not so young anymore. At this point, she was a working student with Kira Kirkland, and this was done from a photograph that was taken of her riding Amiral, who is the horse that Kira rode in the Olympics in Atlanta. And Ebba here is in a really nice shoulder hip heel, and she's pretty much got her heel to point towards the horse's hock rather than the horse's knee. So she is doing the kind of organization that takes a much more flexible ankle than pointing your heel towards the horse's knee, which anybody can do by just sticking their leg forward. But when your foot is back under you in that position, many people struggle to get their heel lower than their toe, let alone their heel aiming towards the horse's hock. And actually the archetypal riders who do that the best are Spanish school riders. And when you look at them, you really see that shoulder hip heel line. So when a horse and rider first appear in front of me, one of the first questions I ask myself is, if we took the horse out from underneath the rider by magic, how would the rider land on the riding arena? And when you look at Ebba here, I think it's quite clear that if we took the horse out from underneath her, she would plop down on the riding arena on her feet and would land in a martial arts position. And as you look at her as well, you can see that if you look at her torso, the length of her front, kind of from her ponytail and the nape of her neck down to the back of her backside. Sorry, the length of her back from her ponytail and the nape of her neck down to the back of her backside. And the length of her front from her collarbone to her pubic bone match, which means that her torso is pretty much box-shaped. So I'm going to put another photograph up here. So this is a photograph of a rider on a course at my riding center here, riding my pony Ellie, who was put to sleep earlier this year, sadly, at a ripe old age. I don't even know what it was. So here you've got a rider, again, doing a pretty good shoulder hip heel, but clearly not the kind of quality of oomph in her body that Ebba has. So this rider has her foot underneath her, but her heel is a little higher than her toe. And whilst a lot of people would freak out about that, that doesn't worry me. I can live with that perfectly well if I can get the baseline of, if we took the horse out from underneath her by magic, she'd land on the riding arena on her feet.